Hello and welcome. This is a podcast where I talk about whatever I want. I'm Johnnie and I'm a librarian. Let's talk about the Internet. Okay, so this is the first episode, the premiere episode, and we'll see how this goes. I thought I would give some, contribute to the podcast area. I've always been interested in sort of getting myself out there and talking, but I want some structure. So, I have my YouTube videos, and I'm so happy that YouTube is now incorporating a podcast format in with their products. So, this is going to be about the Internet, and from my perspective, I'm a librarian. That's why this podcast is kind of, from my area of expertise. So, 4 parts to this. The first part will be Internet for me, and pre-Internet, after Internet. So I was born in the late 70s, so there was no Internet. We didn't have cable growing up, books and everything. So it's very different than Internet native people that are born now, students, kids, everybody that are born, the Internet's already there. And so I thought I'd talk about when I first started looking at the Internet, what I felt, my feelings, and all that. I wasn't exposed to the Internet until I started college in '97, and the Internet was it was wired. It wasn't dial-up on campus, and it was very crude. Netscape Navigator. Netscape was the browser they use, and you would get AOL discs in the mail all the time from I think started in '94. You would always get every week a damn CD in the mail. Install AOL, and then AOL Chat Messenger was there. My first foray on the Internet, I had I started looking. I thought you needed a web address. That was the key to surf the web, right? So I ended up. I had a No Doubt CD, their second CD, Tragic Kingdom, and there was a web address on the bottom. I'm like, oh my god! And it was really long. It wasn't like NoDoubt.com. It was their label and then a tilde and I don't know, something like that. But you had to type it in just right, and then it would pull it up. And this was the age of dithering, where an image would slowly, generate as it came out and was downloaded. Lots of moving GIFs, GeoCities. I had Rocket Mail before it was Hotmail. No, I had Hotmail before Microsoft bought it, but I also had Rocket Mail, which was like a competitor to Hotmail. Hotmail was my first email address, other than my campus email. And we didn't even have it was like a DOS version. It was called Pine for our email, and we couldn't get pictures or anything through email. And this was before cell phones. I had a cell phone. I didn't get a cell phone until 2001, I think. So in '97, I'm, probably starting to surf the web more regularly, finding random stuff. Websites are very crude, rudimentary. If you look on the Wayback Machine Internet Archive, you can see some of them. Lots of, not much content, a lot of, links everywhere, too much moving going on. Blue Mountain cards. Blue Mountain was I think 1-800-Flowers. Those were 2 websites I went to all the time, because you could send a virtual bouquet to someone for free, or a virtual card for free. Blue Mountain cards. It was really crazy. Some of them are animated. It's really crazy, but I started to meet new people through the Internet. There was Talk.com, was a chat service where you'd go in different rooms, and of course, me being a little gay child, I went to the gay rooms, and there were just people all over the country, all over the world really, but mainly in the U.S., chat with different people. You would just type in a username. It could always be different. You could use the same one. Someone could be your username. It was the Wild West, really. anything goes. And I had a Yahoo page, a Yahoo internet site. I tried GeoCities, but you had to know a little bit of code before they actually implemented like a WYSIWYG editor, where you could actually change stuff and see how it looked instead of doing some coding. I did learn a little bit of HTML, hex codes, changing color, making things blink, inserting images, things like that. I taught myself. But yeah, and Gopher, listservs. I mean, it was crazy stuff. People wouldn't recognize the internet as it is now. Napster, I tried that later on. You know, you LimeWire, all that. That was a little bit later. I did get my own home computer in '99. And by this time, I had already started meeting people. I'd actually met some people in real life, too, from the internet. I did meet my current husband on the internet. I think it was gayuniverse.com. There was like a message board. I think it was Gay Universe. Can't remember. But we both had Hotmail addresses, which I thought was interesting. And this was in '97. This was in late May of '97. But yeah, the internet was just crazy. If you searching for stuff, Yahoo was the thing. Google didn't exist then. So Yahoo or Ask Jeeves or Dogpile. I think Dogpile was back then. Ask Jeeves was a big thing. But yeah, when I got my own computer in '99, I had dial-up through the university. So you could dial up through the university. They gave you a phone number you dial into. It's really slow, and then I had my favorite webcams. There were webcams like Sean Patrick Live, Rex's World. They don't exist anymore. Really old. So it's hard to even find anything on those two. But I thought, refresh cam every 30 seconds was pretty crazy. Just to spy on people, I thought it was so foreign to me to spy on people. But meeting people, it really opened me up as far as being a sort of closeted, not really closeted, but not completely out, very sort of withdrawn from people, definitely an introvert. And I got my first job in the library. I'd already worked in the library world in high school for 2 years, but as a student, as a freshman, I got a job in the library as well. So I've worked in the library for, 26 years total. I've worked in a library, high school library, university library. So that's my life. And I got my master's degree in library science, library and information science. So obviously it means something to me. So meeting people was really different then. And, the interactions were crazy. You couldn't really exchange pictures online. Nobody had a scanner. I mean, scanners didn't really exist. Digital cameras didn't really exist either. So you were describing each other. I have medium brown hair, longish in the front, green eyes, and you got really descriptive. And it's not like that anymore. It's like, hey, give me a picture. No face photo, no talk. So one of the things that, as far as libraries went and the way they did work, is databases started to move online, where you found information moved online from disks, like ProQuest disks that you'd pop in the machine in a reader. Things really moved from there until the way they are now, which is like EBSCOhost, JSTOR. It's all web-based. Web goes down, you're out of luck. I remember using PsycInfo, which was no pictures. It was like like just text, and there were no full text documents. Full text documents really were rare. You had to go find and pull the periodical, physically copy it, unless it was on ProQuest. ProQuest was the one that had the discs, and you pop them in, print out the black and white copies. But scanning was the thing to do. Photocopiers. Only libraries had like scanners. Most people, average people, didn't have scanners. You had to take it somewhere for a scanning service, like places that develop photos would scan stuff. So the one thing the internet has done, Google at first, I think when Google came out, I know Gmail came out in like 2005. It was a big deal, the whole Google thing of looking for information, and I still see that now in students looking for research. They'll just Google it. They won't even go into a database, which is technically the deep web. It's a paywall. We pay for that stuff. And they just search for stuff. They pull it up, but they don't evaluate it. There is no evaluation of it. No information literacy. You really have to push that. That's critical thinking skills that just don't seem to exist unless you build upon them. You don't use a blurb from a website, a beta website on how to feed a beta, how often to do it. That's not an academic item. You'd have to find an academic article on beta behavior and feeding or something, translating that. It's gotten worse and worse that I've seen. And as a librarian, one of the things when I was in library school, we talked about becoming irrelevant as a librarian. But I feel that librarians are more important than ever, especially in the academic setting, to really help people do research, because students coming out of high school now don't do research. They don't know how to do research. They are really, really ill prepared for doing research. When I was in college and I did research, I had to go find the journal, photocopy stuff, look in the index of the last issue of that volume, and actually look for stuff. We had indexes, which were lists of periodicals. You look up topics and all. That's gone away. It used to be all paper, all looking at it, finding exactly what you want, and then photocopying it, or taking notes from it if you didn't want to photocopy something. When I wrote my capstone paper for psychology, for my bachelor's, it was crazy. I think I had like maybe 34 sources. Most were books. Actually, half were books, half were articles. And the articles, they were all photocopies, stapled, and I'd highlighted on them and stuff, and got in quotes and all. Now it's you have tools like Zotero, which you never have to print out anything. You can just save it, and Zotero is absolutely wonderful. I love it. It's really great for research and collecting articles, making annotations. So with the internet, we have this lovely product called the internet, and it's gotten more sophisticated, more complex, and it really is like I don't want to quote Dilbert, but because of Scott Adams, he is a jerk, but it really is like a fire hose aimed at a teacup. It's just way too much information at the consumer. The problem today with things like QAnon and really biased news is people cannot think critically for themselves. That's a big problem. People will not make decisions based on multiple sources. They won't draw their own conclusions. They'll follow someone like a lamb, a sheep. So the latest thing is AI. And as a experiment, I actually said, I want to create a podcast to chat GPT. I said, can you give me some names? I'm a librarian. I want to talk about whatever I want, but the subjects will be about, or surround a certain topic. It said, sure. It gave me one, it gave me another, and it gave me another. And the third one, I thought, this is great. The first one it suggested was the Dewey Decibels. Now, Dewey Decimal System is only used in public libraries. Academic libraries don't use that. They use Library of Congress. So I was like, no. Forget what the second one was, but the third one was called Off the Stacks. And it suggested I use my name in it, so Off the Stacks with Johnnie, to make it more personal. And I thought, wow. So I thanked the chat bot, and it said, good luck on your podcast. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Made it very easy. Whenever I've tried to use AI to research a topic, it does an okay job. It's very Wikipedia-like as far as what it retrieves, but it's really great in that if you needed to understand a concept or something, it does break it down. And you can say, break it down in easier language. It does a fairly good job, but with any AI, it's learning. It learns from its mistakes, and typically it wants feedback. The new Photoshop neural filters. Neural means it's trying to learn. It wants feedback. Did it do a good job colorizing a black and white photo? It does a pretty good job in Photoshop 2023. But it will also do, like, take the style of this and make it the style of that. So you like a style of a Matisse painting or a style of Picasso, it will actually recreate a photo in that, using that neural engine, which is really cool. I can just imagine the average consumer can take a black and white home movie and colorize the thing, and it looks like the same technology wasn't available to the consumer, I can see that in the future. But, so AI, it's problematic. Already at my university, students are getting in trouble for using ChatGPT. And, it will further dumb down, my opinion, it will further dumb down the ability to research and think critically. Now, the one good thing about AI is there are organizations that are worried about it and putting parameters on it. So if you were to chat with, say, a virtual therapist, and it says, well, there's really nothing we can do for you. It's better you just do yourself in and kill yourself. Well, that's problematic in several ways. And the one thing about AI is it's not a sentient being yet. I mean, when the singularity happens, I'm sure we'll all be gone. It's very scary. There's a Michael Crichton book called, oh shoot, what's it called? I read it last year, but it was basically about a sentient AI that escapes. It's a pretty good book. It's called Next. I think it might be called Next. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's really a different kind of world with AI. Yes, it can. I think it can do some amazing stuff. The really cool thing I like is, let's say you like a song, but you want another singer to sing it. That's something I find really fascinating, because if you really like a song and you want to hear it in, like, say, Madonna singing it, you want Madonna to sing Purple Rain, or you want Prince to sing Like a Virgin, that would be crazy. And the thing about AI is it's only getting better. It's improving, which can be scary. There are some parameters that are being put in place, and I liken this to GPS, global positioning satellites, where if the consumer GPS system does not get the same exact satellite coordinates that military-grade GPS does. Let's say military GPS, and that's to protect, secure locations and all. That's interesting. So I can see AI sort of like unfiltered version of AI that's like crazy and like gives you insight into like really complex problems, and then consumer-based AI that helps with average things. But with students using things that generate content, programs that generate articles, like predatory publishing, and China is notorious for this because it's so cutthroat. Sometimes it's just word salad, but it's using key terms that if you read it, you're like, I don't even know what I read. That's a problem. But if two people use the same, they use like a chat GPT and they try to get the same content, Well, it's going to be very similar unless they say, can you rephrase what you just told me? Let's rephrase it again. Let's write it from the perspective of blank. It can get pretty complex, and people can get smarter. I don't know. I really have mixed feelings about AI. I think it can do a lot of good, and I intentionally used it to create the name of my podcast. So I just think that's just crazy. It's something to really think about. So one of the things that we did in I took a class, and we said, let's have a thought experiment. So my thought experiment for this is, where do you see AI in 10 years? And so, me thinking about that right now, if you think about that, we may have, our wheelhouses, how it will affect us, how it will affect jobs. It takes the guesswork out of a lot of stuff. What if a doctor is dealing with a complex system, and is trying to really solve a problem, and it uses ChatGPT to help them? That's great. That's awesome. What if ChatGPT or another chat service or an AI becomes a subscription model that actually opens up deep web content, like, let's say, EBSCOhost or ProQuest? It opens up so much scholarly material, but is it really dumbing down things for us, for everyone, making it way too easy for us to not think? And that's a problem. I really hope people keep thinking and thinking critically, because that's a real problem everywhere. It's just a real problem. And, thinking critically and avoiding bias or detecting bias and drawing your own conclusions. Using your noodle is really important, your brain. But anyway, I thought I would wrap this up. So this was my first one. I'm sure the content will evolve and change, but so far I'm happy with what I've recorded, so I hope you enjoyed it too. And thank you for listening.